channel, it's probably useful for you to know that I took up golf in earnest in October of 2023. That was about 9 months ago. You can check out the origin story videos I've linked to in the description. I have the North Star of my golf journey being to shoot one round of 18-hole par golf. Mind you, I'm not talking about becoming a scratch golfer, though I do hypothesize that I'll need to get to an authentic single-digit handicap to have a shot at this objective of one round of 18-hole par golf. So, spoiler alert, I'm already at a sub-13 handicap at the moment, and my low score is 10 over for 18 and 3 over for 9. And this is not on cake courses. I played some and scored on some cool courses, some challenging courses. And if you're interested in learning more about how I got here from nothing, from a standing start, and are keen to follow along to the next level, please remember to hit the subscribe button and let's do this together. So, at the beginning of this year, I did a video describing my objectives and key results, or OKRs, for the calendar year 2024. And I put a link in the description as well there. And I disclosed there that I'm applying product management principles to my game of golf. That is, I'm applying the techniques of my profession of product development and product management to myself and learning how to play golf incrementally better, never best. I had an intuition that applying some of the product management principles to my game of golf might help speed up my evolution and journey, and it seems to be working. That is, I observed there was so much out there, and there still is, on the internet or in real life on specific equipment or techniques or instruction, and these are very important inputs as well as outputs. You know, for example, training techniques and practice routines that you can do over and over again. It doesn't mean there's causal relationship, as I felt like there was this massive gap between those inputs and outputs, techniques and gear, and the outcomes of better full rounds of golf measured by scores and handicap. And the impact, for example, winning tournaments, or the intrinsic satisfaction and happiness that we get from playing the game of golf, whatever impact we strive for. And very importantly, there is, as I just said, no innate causal connection between those outputs, how much I practice, how often I play, to an outcome. Furthermore, for me as a beginner, I observed there were huge leaps that many expect from the inputs and outputs to the bigger outcomes, like an 18-hole round score or a handicap. So as we all know, it isn't easy to hold it together for 18 holes, so where are the intermediate steps? So I felt it was important to find these intermediate outcomes, specifically smaller and repeatable achievements related to, in my case, my in situ behaviors on course when I'm actually doing the work that I'm doing, that have more valuable causal connection to my ultimate objective. Like we do in product management, we look for leading indicators that tell us, in forms of outcomes, that tell us that the lagging indicators, like a single round score or a handicap, are actually, there's some connection between those early investments and the later outcomes. So my sense was the pros have these, and those are only now that I can see leaking out in bits and bobs for every person. The closest I've actually seen is folks like Bryson DeChambeau in the pro realm, and Maddie, I don't know his last name, his handle is Golf Sidekick in YouTube, in the amateur realm, right? And in my tour through North Carolina, I was fortunate enough to actually get some instruction from a fellow named Patrick Kelly, this guy, where I found that he thinks like a product manager, or product managers think like him. So his instruction really resonated for me, and there's more on that in another coming video. I'm also planning a separate video on the differences between inputs, outputs, outcomes, and impact in the golf context. And I do feel like it's going to be helpful for most folks out there. And I'll illustrate why this language of value is useful for improving the golf experience. So, the two primary product practices that I adopted, the first was this disciplined adoption of the language of value and differentiating on where I was investing effort, right? Was I investing in inputs, buying equipment, outputs, how much I practiced, or actual intermediate outcomes? And the second was this use of what we call OKRs, or objectives and key results. And those are typically those objectives focus on outcomes that I hypothesize would have a causal connection to my ultimate North Star objective, that is that big hairy outcome of one round of par golf. So again, that clarification before we jump into the review, those objectives I'm talking about are typically outcomes or impact related, not always and mostly, And the key results that I go for are those measurable and observable things we demonstrate how we know we've achieved those objectives. So, to review, for 2024, I set a few OKRs across my personal play and my intentions for collaboration and publishing in this context around party guys. The first objective was have my handicap. The second objective was inspire and collaborate with other party guys and party gals. And the third one was evolve the Party Guys channel to be self-sustaining. For objective 1, get that handicap between 10 and 12. Looking back, there's actually surprisingly more progress than perhaps I'd have expected at mid-year. The first key result was playing 50 scoring rounds, which I felt like I needed to do in order to actually make any progress. So now I've played over 30 scoring rounds of 18 holes, plus another 11 scoring rounds of 9. Check me out on the Grint. That's where I record all my scores. That's across some 24 different courses and slopes ranging from 119 to 143. So these aren't simple courses. I've also played many declared practice rounds, as there's no other way for me to actually truly find my game if I don't go out on a course and remove scoring from the dynamics of applying what I'm practicing on the driving range or the pitching and putting greens. And I don't see any other way other than getting out there, getting out of the simulator and applying it on course. And I think it's important to do that without thinking about score. So the second KR was playing 3 holes of continuous par golf. Now, I was super fortunate to actually tick that box in January, and I've repeated that several times now with a combination of pars, birdies, and bogeys. So tick the box on that. 1.3 was string together 2 sets of 3-hole stretches of par golf in 1 round of 18. And I got that one for the first time at Olympic Lakes course in March with my buddy Jim Safransky, who's a member there. And that's an amazing course. And I've repeated that one multiple times now too, so tick the box on that. The fourth KR was shoot par or better at least 3 times during the year at the 9-hole par 3 course in my home training facility at Amsteldyke. This was challenging, and I achieved it the second time I went out, right? I shot 4 under on that second try, and there's a link to the description of that video. I still have 2 more to do, and I'm keen to get back to it, but I've been gone for some time, so now I'm back in Amsterdam, and I'll get back to that. My short game needs to work, too. The fifth one is shoot 1 birdie on the front 9, and 1 birdie on the back 9 in a single round of 18. That's not done. I've shot 2 birdies in 1 round at Calipe Reserve, back-to-back on a day where the greens were like beaches. And I did it again at Devil's Ridge just last week. So I don't consider this KR ticked, as it was meant to represent more consistency across the front and back 9, because I get streaky and I need to find ways to smooth that out a bit. So doing it once on the front, 1 on the back, I still need to tick that box. And the sixth one was shoot 4 over par for 9 holes. So I shot 4 over on the front 9 at that Olympic round, Olympic Lakes course in March, 39 on a par 35, and I've done that a couple times since, even beat it with a 3 over at Rock Barn in North Carolina about 10 days ago. And then the 7th one was shoot 80 at least once. That's 8 over par for 18. Haven't done that yet. My low score so far is 10 over. That was also at Rock Barn. Challenging course near Charlotte with a few of the boys from the Charlotte Random Golf Club, RGC chapter. Shout out to Tom and Rob. That was a great round. That was super fun. And the 8th one, sort out my early extension. Hasn't happened yet. So I have some breadcrumbs and moments of progress. This one is really hard to measure. I'm basically using video feedback to see how often it presents and making a judgment call. And my judgment is still that it shows up far too often. So I'd like to find a metric here, but I haven't found it, so it's just going to be a judgment call on that one. I will say that coaching from Patrick Kelly has given me the best chance yet to break through to a new level here, so I'm going to persist on that one. And 1.9 was a milestone, meaning it's a done, not done binary proposition. My partner and I, it was set up as my partner and I relocated to a locale where year-round golf is a thing. That hasn't happened yet, and it's kind of in progress because we spent a month in Florida, South Carolina, and California, and another month in June in North Carolina. And I'm finding there are many potential solutions to this root problem. And the root problem, it turns out, is to be able to play year-round. And I'm exploring those. So this KR would have been more optimally constructed probably as lifestyle has been evolved to enable year-round practice and play in 60 degree plus 15-ish degrees in Celsius weather. And then the 10th one is the ultimate measure of the overall objective, and objective one, and that is, have my handicap. And there are 4 sub-KRs that I hypothesize will be good measures of causal connection to that better handicap outcome. The first one is fairways in regulation of 50%, and it's averaging around, blowing my mind, 65% at the moment. And I don't think that's sustainable at the moment, but it's been as high as 90% in a single round. But it's basically 2 out of 3 shots are hit in the fairway. The second is par 3 accuracy of greater than 40%. And I was surprised when I went and looked at this one up. It's 37.5% at the time overall, and 55% for the last 20 rounds. And I love par 3s. So whether I'm playing them optimally or non-optimally, I love them. The third one is greens in regulation at 25%, up from 20%. And my all-time now is around 30%. And the last 20 rounds is 38.6%. So keep doing what you're doing there, Jim. And putts, I need some real work here. The golfer's lament, right? I was aiming for an average of 1.53 putts per round and an average 48% of strokes per round being putts. That's 34, 35 putts on a par 72. And I'm way off here. So I've had 1 round in the last 20 with 0 3-putts and 1 with a single 3-putt. The number of 3-putts I typically have is 4, 5, or 6 in a round, or occasionally even 7. Yeah, it's challenging. So overall, I average 38 putts per round, and all time, or the last 20, no improvement. It's the same. None, no improvement. So that's not good, right? So not surprising for an amateur like me, I suppose, but still it's annoying. So, and I acknowledge that putts per round is a somewhat controversial metric. That is, it depends entirely on where one arrives on or around the green. And it feels like I should simply be tracking greens in regulation and ups and downs, right? So essentially par saves. So we'll see. However it shakes out, I have work to do here. So overall for objective 1, having my handicap, when I first started playing in 2023 and had played enough rounds to actually get a handicap, it was about a 25. And by year end 2023, it was about 20.5. So a bit over 20, under 21. Today, my WHS, my World Handicapping System Index, is 13, and my aim was between 10 and 12 by the end of the year. So I'm close, even with notably suboptimal putting. So interestingly for me, my average is more useful metric that currently stands at about 88.5. So even though my potential to score is around a 13 at the moment, and I can get better than that sometimes, yeah, my head hasn't caught up yet on that one. Or maybe my confidence hasn't caught up on that one. Objective number 2 was inspire and collaborate with other party guys. And this one was about my discovery that part of my journey is solo, and I cherish that aspect so much. That inner and outer physical, emotional, mental, psychological journey. It really gets me up in the morning. It gets me super pumped. And another dimension that has emerged over time is this realization that I really enjoy sharing this journey with birds of a feather. Not just any golfers. I mean party guys and party gals. And I define them as someone who brings a compassionate, festive, positive, humorous, disciplined, scrappy, ambitious mindset and other incredible measures of character, right, or traits of character to the pursuit of always better, never best golf. They can range from high handicappers to single-digit handicappers on the verge of breaking the scratch barrier, or even plus handicappers, people who are kicking ass. It's more an attitude and mindset that defines a party guy or party gal for me. And in this realm, my key results were set up as 1, collaborate with at least 3 other party guys or party gals, folks on a similar mission to my own, and by year end 2024, they are actively contributing to the Party Guys channel. So I would describe this as only really green shoots here, right? I've met and worked with a few folks and I would definitely consider them party guys or party gals, and still no firm commitments from them to actively or proactively and reliably contribute to the Party Guys content. And I may need to expand the definition here of this key result, as there's some content that I'm working on with some others that may be not suited for the Party Guys channel, and still pretty exciting stuff, so we'll see. And the second was to organize myself or with others to enter at least 12 competitions or co-opetitions with other party guys and party gals in 2s, 3s, 4s, or whatever amount. And this was related to subjecting myself and others to the psychological pressure of competition that one simply cannot simulate. Even with super creativity, inventing games and training, which is useful too, for sure, that live fire environment is simply a critical training aid for blasting through plateaus and outright barriers we inevitably encounter in that journey to always better, never best golf. Especially when we approach tougher milestones or barriers like single-digit handicap or achieving scratch golf or certain score measures. There's an intention rolled into this to find those compassionate techniques to not only help myself do that, but to help other folks to distill it and translate it so that others can benefit from this experience. So far I've participated in 2 scrambles. I won one, and 3 club competitions. I came in second in one. And I've entered a big competition, the Myrtle Beach World Am, a full 4-day, 4-round tourney in August in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And I'll enter more of my club competitions during July and early August and beyond, and set up more party guys competitions as well. So I'm well on track there. And objective number 3 was evolve the party guys and Swing Thoughts journeys to be self-sustaining, my YouTube journey to be self-sustaining. So I've decided it prudent to reconsider or recast my objectives there, and I've not figured out how to quite do that yet. My key results were intended to be, 1, to produce and publish a minimum of 20 Swing Thoughts on-course interviews with extraordinary full-dimensional humans of my choice, and at least half of them being sponsored. And the second one was to produce and publish a minimum of 100 short and 30 long-form videos on party guys on the channel, YouTube channel. And the third one was I met one of the 2 YouTube requirements I still need to meet to be qualified for monetization. That's either 3,000 public watched hours or 3 million public shorts views. So on all 3 of these, I'm kind of blocked on them. I simply do not have the editing bandwidth or speed or skill to get this done at the moment appropriately. So I'm grinding away best I can. And I took on a full-time gig in my core profession of product management for a growth company that needs my attention. So it's a bit of a balance here. Even when I wasn't doing that other gig, it was still a challenge. And so if there's any editors out there, I'm here. Come and help. So this objective may take a wee bit longer than perhaps intended, and you can help right now by subscribing, liking, and sharing my videos or commenting in there. So building this channel will help me justify investing more and more time and money into the journey and sharing it with y'all. And if there's people out there that would like to join this journey, who have an intention to get really good at golf, let's go. So along the way, what's been causing me anxiety? So the first one is the thing I just mentioned, the capacity to spend on distilling, editing, and publishing content. I have this huge backlog of really great content from amazing courses, often with interesting people, and this is probably my number one anxiety at this time, even more so than my progress on my golf game. Because there's so much good content that I feel would be entertaining and useful to other folks, and I simply don't have the bandwidth to do it all alone. So dozens of full episodes and even more shorts, and I'm exploring actions on figuring out how to unlock this. And again, if there's editors out there that are keen to help on this journey, I'm here. Reach out. Second anxiety is, how do I lock in these new techniques that are working? All right, so the time it takes to lock in a new technique that I'm demonstrating efficacy on, or I have demonstrated efficacy on, it's just not the Matrix, I know Kung Fu download. I get it right for a bit, then it kind of goes away or wavers or doubt enters and I start overthinking and poof, it's gone or it goes dormant. And that's where I have anxiety that it will, even if it isn't. And sometimes it does. And so it's justified anxiety perhaps. It's silly, it's still an anxiety. So the handicap pressure is another anxiety. I don't want that anxiety. I talk about not having it, but I identify more with my average of 88 plus, and I'm having trouble reconciling that with my handicap of 13. I know that handicap number is a measure of potential to score, and I love seeing that number on my app as I go lower and lower. I just don't like the perceived pressure it brings, and so I'm even relaxing my mind and saying, I'll let it go up, and please go up a little bit, because my handicap going lower and lower, in my mind, I'm thinking more about average, the 88.5 number. So do I feel it's deserved? I don't know, but I'm having some cognitive dissonance there, so it causes me some anxiety. The putting, I feel I should be really, really good at putting, right? A reliable reader of greens with a repeatable stroke, and alas, I kind of suck. So I have non-repeatable streaks of brilliance, and I see a plan going forward for driving and fairway play and my irons and wedges and even my chipping. And I haven't yet found my path forward for putting. So I'm anxious about it, as just a 10% improvement there contributes mightily to other outcomes. Another anxiety is the monkey brain thing. Man, those monkeys are having a ball during my backswing. Notwithstanding the bizarre neurological glitches in my swing sometimes that cause some kind of weird shot that I occasionally experience, I can't explain a duff or a thin or an outright shank sometimes. And I feel my setup routines have helped massively in increasing confidence and repeatability. It's still, when it all goes quiet, or is meant to, that's where I need some elixir. Shutting down those monkeys having a party up here. Yeah, so letting what I've learned come through. Yeah, it's tough. It's a tough one. There's some anxiety there. It's head games. Another anxiety is, can I do this? I'm mostly in an absolutely state. I know I can break 80 now. I'm right there. And I'm convinced I can shoot one round of par golf, and I just need to stick to the process. And then I go and shoot a 93, and I'm like, WTF, is there something wrong with me? The confidence phases or the confident phases are far more frequent than the not so confident. I just have to work on that weighting a bit and not put so much pressure on when it's not working and put more pressure on when it is. So speaking of working, what is working? Lots. There's a lot. Solving one problem at a time and focusing on the upstream, first getting to the stable baseline from which I can work downstream, that is working. Focusing on getting my driver sorted to a certain version 1 level, baseline, with some level of repeatability and distance, that was a big thing, right, for me. And then working on what it takes to get greens in regulation higher and higher, and then chipping and putting. So it seems to be working. And related to that, having a solid routine for each shot, that setup ritual, and just think tempo after that and empty the mind. So it's not working all the time, but it's working better. What also seems to be working is the product management approach. I can't prove the causality, and I'm simply, I'm not that talented of an athlete, and I started at 64 years old, so it seems pretty likely that it is indeed working, or at least contributing. The numbers just don't lie. Another thing that's working is I'm meeting some amazing folks, some of which have turned into collaborators and potential collaborators, and certainly repeated playing partners. So there's a lot that is working. And along the way, things I didn't know at the beginning of the year or hadn't learned, there are things that I have learned, new things. So one is if I wanted to optimize my handicap, then I'd play the same course over and over and over again. I'd take a different approach entirely, but I prefer a mix of variety and adventure, so I will not be optimizing for my handicap. And I will compromise, that is, I will commit to the best I can to play every new course at least twice. That is, a mix of variety and learning the course. And alas, I can't do that everywhere. For example, I couldn't do it at Pinehurst, though I did at Tobacco Road and Duke and a few other Carolinas courses that I played this summer. And of course, I do when I'm on my home course in the Netherlands. I've also learned that I've naturally gravitated to that waterfall or cascading skills improvements I was describing. That is prioritizing the upstream sequencing of driving, fairway, approaches, chipping, pitching, putting in my time and focus investment profile, and in that order. So I found that I was having cognitive dissonance about focusing on my under 50-yard game when I wasn't even close to putting myself in a position to take advantage of it. It was just frustrating me. That is, I was only able to apply it when I was really scrambling. So earlier on in the year, I just decided to pull back on time spent downstream on a hole and pulling it upstream, investing more on stabilizing my off the tee, really focusing on fixing my frequent miss, which was a slice, and learning to actually draw and coming up with a more reliable and repeatable setup ritual. And it's working. Given 3 of 5 tee shots are now finding their way to the fairway, at the moment anyways. Could change. And the next was finding the swing that could apply to my hybrids, irons, and wedges play, say under 220 yards through the fairway or the rough or the pine straw or whatever. So far, I'm admittedly performing better on that with, say, 8 irons and down or 160 down. I'm still not where I need to be with my 6 and 7 iron or the 3, 4, 5 hybrids or the 5 or 3 wood. And they are way better than they were before. And I generally feel really excited to hit my wedges and shorter iron, so under 150 yards. So with 3 of 5 fairways and regulations and around 2 of 5 greens and regulations where I am now, I feel way more comfortable and justified and confident in really investing time in my chipping and putting now, and I will, and I am. I've also learned that I do find online coaching useful, and it's not enough to get where I'm going. So that's also true. I love this gold rush of online golf and all these things happening on YouTube and elsewhere, and alas, it's for me a bit over the top at the moment. It's this promise of scale and money. It's seductive and opportunistic, and it's mostly the name of the game for my profession of product management, frankly, though those are by design, the things that I work on in my profession online. That is the nature of software as a service like Miro or Instagram or whatever online web app or mobile app one uses personally or for business. For golf, I feel like it loses something given the intimate and tactile nature of the sport, of any sport really. It's like learning basketball or baseball online. You can only get so far. So the swing tweaks and the performance golfs of the world have their place. But for example, the latter has kind of jumped the shark for me in this growth marketing mindset. It's like everything is this, the cash has outpaced the mission. Yeah, it's too infomercial for me. Another related learning is I found it very challenging to find live coaches. Maybe the gold rush is too seductive for them. Or perhaps I set my bar too high, and as I will not settle for cookie cutter or lack of curiosity in my journey, right? Just a thing. I feel I've learned bits from swing tweaks and some minimal personal instruction I've gotten from Adam Bazalgette, and a single module I used on Performance Golf by Hank Haney on fixing the slice. It was useful. And again, that company is just too much all about the money and upsell on the platform. It's infomercially distasteful. So the best experience I've had so far in coaching is, and I've really enjoyed it, is my so far 2 lessons experience with Patrick Kelly in North Carolina. And I feel his approach resonates with mine, and I've seen some results in the realm of outcomes, so I'm planning to persist there. Is it coincidence that I shot my personal best 9-hole score of 3 over and 18-hole score of 10 over and record 10 pars in a single round and 72% greens in regulation in that same round, a mere 4 days after my first lesson, after which I had grinded on what he taught me on the range and in 18 holes on a par 3 and another 18-hole practice round, again using what he taught me. So maybe it's connected, maybe it's not. I'll be continuing with Patrick. Another learning is leaning into pressure situations. I was trying to avoid those situations, say, oh, it doesn't matter if you make this shot or not, and I felt that kind of fed the anxiety instead of reduced it. And now I've gone the opposite. I'm working on this judo move into the pressure cooker anxieties and turn them genuinely into excitement and enthusiasm. I was thinking about don't think about score, and now I'm leaning into those what if I could par in, if I could get a birdie on this next hole. And while I'm still practicing not getting attached to the outcomes, that is, not throwing my clubs or be gutted for days if I don't hit my goal. By the way, I don't throw my clubs. I'm leaning in. I'm going further into this, and I'm entering more and more competitions now. The Sunday and Wednesday competitions at my local club, and the big one, the World Am in Myrtle Beach in the end of August. I'm super excited for that bit of pressure cooking. And lastly, my learning is when in doubt, have a process to fall back on. Put one foot in front of the other and execute. It's simple, and it's core right now to my success. So all said, at mid-year 2024, I'm revising my OKRs based on all I've learned upwards, more aggressive. My objective number 1 now is by year-end 2024, my handicap is less than 10. That is single digits, even if it has a decimal in it, like 9.8. I'm going aggressive. I'm going for a stretch. And the key results now, the first one is shoot even par or better 3 times on the par 3 executive course or shorter, like the par 3 training course at Amstelvik. I like this KR, and I'm going to persist with this one. The second is shoot even par for a full 9 holes, whether as part of an 18-hole round or a 9-hole round. And that can be 9 consecutive holes. It doesn't mean to be front 9 or back 9, 9 consecutive holes. The third one is shoot 3 consecutive holes of net under par, not just par, but net under par 3 times. That's, again, not net par, that's net under par. The fourth is shoot 3 consecutive holes of net par or better on the front 9 and on the back 9. I'm keeping this one because it's a measure of my ability to be consistent and stay focused over a whole 18. And then the fifth one is play 75 rounds, not just 50, of 18 holes during 2024. This is an output that I feel will help unlock the work that I'm doing elsewhere in my OKRs. And 1.6 is win outright at least one of my home club competitions. And number 7 is my gross score at the World Am is better than my handicap. That's going to be tough. 4 days of playing, that's a lot of golf to shoot lower than my handicap. That's aggressive, but it'll be fun. And number 8 is I've engaged at least 5 additional lessons with Patrick Kelly. Now that is an output, and I've already seen causality between that output and outcome, so we'll see if that persists. And finally, I'm going to keep those fundamental metrics around fairways and greens objectives related to my handicap getting under 10 now, as opposed to getting between 10 and 12. The first one is fairways in regulation of 2 out of 3, essentially 67%, and par 3 accuracy of 50%. That's 1 and 2. I mean, why not? I love par 3s, so let's go for it. And then the third one is greens in regulation of 35%. I'm upping this one. It was lower than that before. And for putts, I'm looking to change the focus here to scrambling percentage. And that's basically transcending putts and around the green. And for me, this needs to be at least 25% to match up with the numbers across millions of golfers who are less than 10 handicap. And for 2024 at mid-year, my scrambling percentage is 17.5. And this is where the chipping and putting investment goes. The inputs and outputs will be put to the test because I need to up that to 25%. And that's it. I'll see you again at the end of January from our year-end update. Wish me luck. And if you're keen on taking the journey with me, reach out for a collaboration or simply subscribe and like a few videos. And please share your observations or suggestions in the comments. I'd love to hear them. And I'm happy to engage on your journey as well. See if we can help each other. Always better, never best.